It's starting to feel like deja vu when you get news in that a stolen vehicle is involved with a crime. Interested to hear if this has happened to you, 1300 222 612. Dr. Terry Goldsworthy, Associate Professor in Criminology at Bond University, joins us. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Is car theft on the rise?
Yeah, it is. I mean, if we have a look at the police data for the last financial year, we can see that there's been a 16% increase in the number of reported unlawful use offences, and the rate is up 16%. So unlawful use of motor vehicles or stolen vehicles is on the rise in Queensland.
And what can we put that down to? What's the motivation for these criminals?
Look, the motivation is either a short-term use of the vehicle as opposed to taking the vehicle for profit. And what we do know, nationally anyway, is that about 77% of the cars that are stolen for short-term purposes. So that could be joyriding, temporary means of transport, or using it to commit another crime. So overwhelmingly, they're short-term. The recovery rate's about 80% for stolen vehicles, or some thereabouts. So, the kind of image, I guess, we have where people are getting their cars stolen for profit isn't the case. It's more so the short-term people that we need to worry about.
And the joyriding, is that part of the process that they crash the car as well?
Look, it can be. I mean, obviously there's a risk involved if they crash it themselves. It does feature in some. I mean, burning out of vehicles is also another issue that takes place just, to light it up and not get it back to the person. But, the motivation of the offenders can change. We know that stolen vehicles is one of the increasing offences for young people. So, it's problematic because it's a very risky undertaking in terms of stealing the vehicle. Most vehicles are stolen, 70% in fact are stolen using their own keys, and about half of those are taken from people's houses. So, you usually have a break and enter associated with the stolen vehicle as well.
Yeah, and you talked about the age, I suppose, group of the perpetrators. Are they young, inexperienced drivers, I suppose, when they hop into these cars?
Well, the majority of youth offenders are unlicensed. We can take that for granted. So, I mean, their experience is quite low in terms of getting vehicles around the road. And the other issues you have there is that they're in a foreign vehicle. They don't know the vehicle intimately like we know our own. And the other aspect is that often they're driving in a dangerous fashion because they have their mates with them, and there's that peer group pressure to be young and silly. And of course, they don't realise the consequences, and they make very poor risk-taking decisions.
And you were talking about sometimes it's a break and enter. They use the keys that they've maybe stolen from the house. But are there other sophisticated methods that they use as well?
Look, I guess you'd be talking there about the people who are taking the cars for profit. They're the more likely offenders, probably going to be an older group of offenders who have the ability to get around the car alarms and sophisticated immobilisers that we see come forward in vehicles at this point in time. There is a really good website, if your listeners want to have a look at it, called CarSafe, which covers all the national data on stolen vehicles. And for last year, 2021, the top vehicles stolen were the Holden Commodore, the Ford Ranger and a Toyota Hilux. Those type of vehicles are the ones that appeal to the people stealing vehicles.
7 past 7 on ABC Radio Brisbane. Dr. Terry Goldsworthy, Associate Professor in Criminology at Bond University, talking about car theft and the rise in car theft that we're seeing in several areas. I'm thinking then that if things like the Holden Commodore, those, I suppose, older models are being stolen, what about electric vehicles? Are they easier or more difficult to get into?
Good question. I don't have the answer to that one. I mean, I guess... that's something, will be interesting to see as it plays out. I mean, will that be an attractive option to people who are on a short-term theft, offence? Are they going to have time to stop in and recharge it, or
that's right,
whatever's involved? I mean, so I think they'll stick to petrol, something they know for the moment. But that's a really good point. As we transition over and more of those vehicles are around, and their resale at the moment is fairly good, so they're a valuable commodity, they may become a more attractive option to certain groups within the people who are committing the unlawful use offences.
Yeah, and finally, what would your advice be to people then, just in terms of trying to keep their property, their cars safe?
If you've got keys at home, probably put them somewhere where they're not easily locatable. So if someone does get into your house, they're not going to find the keys that easily. Lock the vehicle in the garage when you get out of it. Don't leave it open. If you're out and about, don't leave the keys, under the wheel arch or things like that. Someone's going to be watching you do that if you're going for a swim or a surf. That's just a classic way they get into it. And just be conscious of, your security around your vehicle, where you're parking it, etc. And if your vehicle's an older vehicle, then you may need to take some additional steps. If it doesn't have an immobiliser, it's very hard to simply hotwire a modern car these days. So, for the older vehicles that may be approached, having a steering lock or anything that makes your vehicle more difficult to take than the vehicle next to it.
Yeah, some good advice. Thank you so much for that, Dr. Goldsworthy.
No worries, thank you.
Some good advice there. I hope you took that down. Sophie.
Health and wellbeing. Take the ABC Health Check quiz at abc.net.au/yourmove.